The space station Verathnine floated in the darkness between stars, like a city made of metal and light. Ships came and went from its many docking ports. Traders sold their goods. Diplomats held their meetings. And thousands of aliens from hundreds of worlds walked through its wide corridors. Kong Tai-ho stood at a merchant's stall, arguing about the price of engine parts. He was a tall man with tired eyes and rough hands. 10 years ago, he had been a soldier in the Korean Special Forces. Now he was just a freighter captain trying to make an honest living among the stars. His ship, the Mugen, needed repairs. That was why he had come to this station. That was why he had brought his daughter with him. Hannah was 8 years old. She had her mother's smile and her father's stubborn spirit. Her mother had died 2 years ago from a sickness that human medicine could not cure. Since then, it had been just the two of them, traveling from world to world on the old freighter. "Appa, can I look around?" Hannah asked, tugging at her father's sleeve. Tai-ho looked down at her. The station was busy, but it seemed safe enough. There were security officers everywhere. The Galactic Council kept order here. "Stay in the main corridor," he said. "Do not go far. I will find you when I am done." Hannah nodded and ran off, her small feet tapping against the metal floor. She was curious about everything. The aliens with their strange shapes, the glowing signs and languages she could not read, the smell of food she had never tasted. She walked for several minutes, looking at everything with wide eyes. Then she saw a corridor that was quieter than the others. It had soft blue lights and beautiful decorations on the walls. Hannah did not see the small sign that said Diplomatic Zone, authorized personnel only. She walked inside. The corridor was empty and peaceful. Hannah liked it. She touched the smooth walls and looked at the strange art that hung there. She did not notice the tall figure walking toward her until it was too late. "Commander." Velix of the Korvathi Empire turned the corner and stopped. She was tall and thin, with pale blue skin and large dark eyes. She wore a military uniform covered in medals. In her hand, she carried a cup of ceremonial drink, a sacred liquid used in Korvathi religious practices. Velix looked down at the small human with disgust. Humans were newcomers to the galaxy. They came from Earth, a dangerous world full of predators and disasters. The Korvathi called them Death Worlders and considered them barely civilized. "What is this?" Velix said, her voice cold. "A human child in the diplomatic corridor." Hannah looked up at the alien. She did not understand the words, but she heard the anger in them. She stepped backward, frightened. Her foot caught on the edge of the carpet. She fell. Her hand reached out to stop herself and hit the cup in Velix's hand. The ceremonial drink spilled across the commander's uniform, staining the white fabric with dark purple liquid. For a moment, there was silence. Then Velix screamed. It was not a scream of pain. It was a scream of rage. In Korvathi culture, spilling ceremonial drink was a terrible insult. It did not matter that it was an accident. It did not matter that Hannah was just a child. Velix grabbed Hannah by the arm and lifted her off the ground. Hannah cried out in fear. Velix shouted, "You dare to insult me?" She threw Hannah against the wall. The little girl hit the metal hard and fell to the floor. Before she could move, Velix was on her. The commander struck her again and again. Her fists broke Hannah's arm. Her foot cracked Hannah's skull. Hannah stopped screaming. She stopped moving. Station security arrived 30 seconds later. They pulled Velix away from the bloody, broken body of the child. They called for medical help. They tried to stop the bleeding, Gang Hung. Tai-ho heard the alarms. He heard someone say human child, and his heart stopped. He ran through the corridors, pushing aliens out of his way. He did not stop until he found her. Hannah lay on the floor in a pool of her own blood. Her arm was bent at a wrong angle. Her face was swollen and purple. She was not moving Hannah. Tai-ho fell to his knees beside her. "Hannah, wake up. Please, wake up." A medical team arrived and took her away. Tai-ho followed, his hands covered in his daughter's blood. In the medical bay, a kind alien doctor named Eamon worked to save her life. "She will live," Eamon said after many hours. But there is damage. Her skull was fractured. She has lost hearing in one ear. And the trauma. The doctor shook his head. I am sorry. Taiho sat beside his daughter's bed for 3 days. He did not eat. He did not sleep. He only watched her breathe. On the 4th day, a council representative came to see him. The alien was short and round, with many eyes and a nervous voice. Mr. Kang, the representative said, we have completed our investigation. The officer who attacked your daughter is Commander Velix of the Korvathi Empire. She has been transferred off the station. Taiho looked up. Transferred. What about her punishment? The representative shifted uncomfortably. Commander Velix has diplomatic immunity. The Korvathi Empire is a founding member of the Galactic Council. We cannot charge her with any crime. The case is closed. Taiho stared at the alien for a long moment. My daughter almost died. She broke her arm. She cracked her skull. And there is no punishment? I am sorry, the representative said. There is nothing we can do. The law protects Commander Velix. The representative left. Taiho turned back to his daughter. She was still unconscious. Tubes and wires connected her to machines that kept her alive. He took her small hand in his. It was cold. Something changed in Taiho at that moment. The grief in his heart did not disappear, but it moved aside to make room for something else. Something cold. Something patient. He looked at his daughter's broken body and made a silent promise. The galaxy had laws that protected monsters. Very well. He would teach the galaxy that humans had laws of their own. He kissed Hannah's forehead and whispered, I will make this right, my daughter. I promise you, I will make this right. Outside the window, the stars burned cold and bright. Somewhere among them, Commander Velix slept peacefully, believing she was safe. She was wrong. 3 weeks passed. Hannah woke from her sleep. She was not the same girl who had run through the corridors of Verithnin. She could not hear from her left ear. The doctors said the damage was permanent. Worse than that, she did not speak. Not one word. The trauma had stolen her voice. Taiho brought her to a human colony called New Busan. It was a small world with green fields and blue skies, far from the busy trade routes. His sister, Beek Su, lived there. She would take care of Hannah while Taiho did what needed to be done. Su was a combat medic. She had served with Taiho in the military before they both left Earth. She was shorter than her brother, but just as strong. When she saw Hannah, she did not cry. She simply held the girl and whispered soft words into her good ear. I will keep her safe, Su told her brother. But what are you planning? Taiho did not answer. He did not need to. Su had known him all his life. She could see the decision in his eyes. You cannot do this alone, she said. I know. Then I am coming with you. I will find someone to watch Hannah, but I am coming. Taiho wanted to argue, but he knew it was useless. Su had loved Hannah since the day she was born. She had held her at her mother's funeral. This was her fight too. Over the next week, messages went out across the galaxy. They were sent through old military channels, encrypted and hidden. They reached people who had served with Taiho in the past. People who owed him their lives. People who had their own reasons to hate the Galactic, its council, and its unjust laws. The first to arrive was Li Jun. He was a thin man with quick eyes and clever hands. In the military, he had been a communications specialist. Now he was something else. Some called him a hacker. Others called him a ghost in the machine. He could break into any computer system in the galaxy. I heard about your daughter, Jun said, when he stepped off his transport. I am sorry. Can you find her? Taiho asked. The one who did it? Jun smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Give me a few days. The second to arrive was Choi Myra. She was a woman of average height, with short black hair and calm, empty eyes. She had been a sniper in the military. 47 confirmed kills. She moved like a shadow and spoke only when necessary. I am here, she said. That was all the last was Park Day. He was the oldest of the group, a man in his 50s with gray hair and a loud laugh. He did not look dangerous. He looked like someone's kind uncle. But Day was the best pilot Taiho had ever known. He could fly anything through anywhere. You want to start a war with the Korvathi? Day asked when Taiho explained the mission. No, Taiho said. I want to send a message. Day thought about this for a moment. Then he laughed. Good enough for me. They gathered in the cargo hold of the Mujin, 5 humans from a death world, planning to do the impossible. The Korvathi Empire had thousands of ships and millions of soldiers. The Galactic Council had laws and treaties and power beyond measure, but the humans had something else. They had rage, they had patience, and they had nothing left to lose. June worked at his computer for 3 days. He barely slept. He barely ate. His fingers moved across the keys like water flowing over stones. On the 4th day, he called the others together. I found her, he said. Commander Velix was not punished for what she did. She was rewarded. They promoted her to senior commander and gave her a new posting. Where? Taiho asked. She is serving on a ship called the Korvathi Pride. It is a diplomatic warship, one of the most powerful vessels in their fleet. June pulled up an image on his screen. The ship was massive, covered in weapons and armor. In 2 weeks, it will travel to the Grand Summit. All the leaders of the Galactic Council will be there. Mira studied the image. That ship has over 200 crew members. Heavy shields. Advanced weapons. How do we get close to it? The Pride will pass through the Venn corridor, June said. It is a narrow hyperspace route. Ships must slow down to navigate it. That is our window. Day nodded slowly. It can be done. But we will need special equipment. A stealth shuttle. EMP charges to disable their shields. And security codes to get past their defenses. I can get the codes, June said. But the equipment will be harder. We will have to buy it from the black market. Or steal it. Then we steal it, Taiho said. His voice was flat and cold. Whatever it takes. Whatever the cost. The crew spent the next days making preparations. They studied maps of the Venn corridor. They learned the layout of Korvathi warships. They trained together, remembering old skills that had gone unused for years. On the night before they left, Taiho went to see Hannah one last time. She was staying with a kind family that Sue trusted. The girl sat by a window, looking up at the stars. Taiho knelt beside her. Hannah, he said softly, I have to go away for a while. But I will come back, I promise. Hannah turned to look at him. Her eyes were sad and empty. She had not spoken since the attack. The doctor said she might never speak again. Taiho felt his heart break. He pulled her into a hug and held her tight. Then, soft as a whisper, Hannah spoke. Appa, 1 word. Just 1 word. But it was enough. Taiho's eyes filled with tears. He kissed her forehead and stood up. He walked to the door and looked back at his daughter one more time. I will come back, he said again. And when I do, no one will ever hurt you again. He walked out into the night. The Mujin waited at the landing pad, its engines warm and ready. His crew stood at the ramp, watching him approach. Is everyone ready? Taiho asked. Sue nodded. June nodded. Mira nodded. Day nodded. Taiho climbed aboard and took his seat. Through the window, he could see the lights of the colony growing smaller as the ship rose into the sky. The galaxy thinks we are primitives, Mira said quietly. Animals from a dangerous world. They think we are beneath them. Let them think that, Taiho replied. Let them believe we are weak. Let them sleep peacefully in their beds. The Mujin broke through the atmosphere and entered the cold darkness of space. When we are done, Taiho continued, they will know the truth. They will know what happens when you hurt a Deathworlder's child. The stars stretched into lines as the ship jumped into hyperspace, carrying 5 hunters toward their prey. The lawless sectors of the galaxy had no rules. The Galactic Council's ships did not patrol here. The law meant nothing. Only strength mattered. Only survival. The Mujin traveled through this darkness for 8 days. They stopped at hidden stations and secret ports. They met with criminals and smugglers. They traded money and favors for information and equipment. Their first stop was a place called the Rust Market. It floated in the shadow of a dead moon, a collection of old ships welded together into a massive structure. Here, anything could be bought if the price was right. Taiho and Mira walked through the crowded corridors while Sue stayed on the ship with. Day and June, the aliens they passed, looked at them with curiosity. Humans were rare in this part of space. Many had heard stories about the Deathworlders, but few had seen one in person. That one, Mira said quietly, pointing to a stall run by a creature with 8 arms and no eyes. He sells military equipment. Approached the stall. The creature turned toward them, sensing their presence with organs humans could not understand. Humans, it said in a clicking voice. Interesting. What do you want? EMP charges, Taiho said. Strong enough to disable a warship's shields. The creature made a sound that might have been a laugh. Such things are very expensive. It's very rare. Why would humans need such weapons? That is not your concern. The creature considered this. Then it named a price that was 3 times higher than fair. Taiho did not argue. He paid. Sometimes speed was more important than money. They left the rust market with the EMP charges hidden in sealed containers. But they still needed more. They needed a stealth shuttle, small enough to avoid detection, but strong enough to carry them to the Korvathi Pride. June found one. An old military shuttle, stolen from a Korvathi outpost years ago. It was being held at a smuggler's base called the Hollow. The problem was that the smugglers did not want to sell it. Then we take it, Taiho said. The Hollow was a station built inside a hollow asteroid. It was protected by armed guards and security systems. The smugglers who lived there were dangerous and well-equipped, but they had never faced humans before. The Mugen approached the Hollow with its weapons powered down. Day opened a communication channel and asked for permission to dock. The smugglers agreed, expecting easy prey. They were wrong. The attack happened at midnight station time. Taiho, Sue, and Mira moved through the corridors like ghosts. They wore black clothing and carried weapons that made no sound. The guards they encountered did not have time to scream. The aliens of the galaxy had many advantages over humans. Some were stronger. Some were faster. Some had natural weapons like claws or poison or armored skin. But humans had something else. They had millions of years of evolution on a world that was trying to kill them. Earth was a death world. Its gravity was heavy. Its predators were deadly. Its diseases were countless. Its weather was violent. Everything on Earth fought to survive, and humans had one. They had conquered their world, not with strength, but with endurance, teamwork, and the ability to adapt to anything. The smugglers learned this the hard way. The guard fired his weapon at Sue. The shot hit her shoulder. On any other species, the wound would have caused shock and collapse. Sue kept moving. She grabbed the guard by the throat and threw him into the wall. Her other hand pressed a bandage against her wound without slowing down. Mira faced 3 enemies at once. They were faster than her, but she was calmer. She did not waste movement. She did not waste bullets. 3 shots. 3 bodies. She stepped over them and continued walking. Taiho found the shuttle in the main hangar. 2 guards stood in front of it. He killed them both in 4 seconds. His training from Earth, from wars and missions that the galaxy knew nothing about, made him into something these aliens could not understand. A monster that looked like a man. They took the shuttle and flew it back to the Mugen. Behind them, the Hollow burned. The smugglers who survived would tell stories about what happened. They would describe the humans with fear in their voices. Good. Let the stories spread. Let the galaxy begin to understand. One more thing was needed. Security codes that would let them get close to the Korvathi Pride. Without those codes, the warship would destroy them before they could attack. June found a small Korvathi supply outpost on the edge of the Empire's territory. It was not well defended. Only 30 soldiers. The codes they needed were stored in the outpost's computer. The crew attacked at dawn. This fight was not quiet. This fight was loud and bloody and terrible. The Korvathi soldiers were trained warriors. They fought hard. They did not surrender. But one by one, they fell. Taiho took a blade across his chest. The wound was deep, but he wrapped it with torn cloth and kept fighting. Sue took a shot to her leg. She tied it off and kept moving. Day, who usually stayed on the ship, picked up a fallen weapon and defended his friends with surprising skill. When it was over, 12 Korvathi soldiers lay dead. The rest had fled. The humans stood among the bodies, breathing hard, covered in their own blood and the blood of their enemies. One Korvathi soldier was still alive. He was young and frightened, crawling toward an exit that he would never reach. Taiho stood over him. "What are you?" The soldier asked, his voice shaking. "What kind of creatures are you?" Taiho looked down at him with cold eyes. Blood dripped from his wounds onto the metal floor. He should have been unconscious from blood loss. He should have been screaming in pain. Instead, he was standing. Instead, he was calm. "We are humans," Taiho said. "We are what happens when you hurt our children." He walked away, leaving the soldier alive. "Let him tell his commanders. Let the story spread. Let Commander Velix hear the rumors and wonder what was coming for her." June downloaded the security codes from the outpost's computer. They had everything they needed now. The EMP charges, the stealth shuttle, the codes. The crew returned to the Mujin and set course for the Ven corridor. In 3 days, the Korvathi Pride would pass through. In 3 days, Commander Velix would face justice. Taiho sat in his cabin and looked at a photograph of Hannah. It had been taken before the attack, when she still smiled and laughed and spoke. When she still heard the world with both ears, when she was still whole. He touched the image gently. "Soon," he whispered. "Soon, my daughter. I will keep my promise." Outside the window, the stars burned cold and ancient. They had seen 1 trillion years of history. They had watched empires rise and fall, species evolve and die. They did not care about justice or revenge, but the humans did. And the humans were coming. The hunt was almost over. The reckoning was about to begin. The Ven corridor was a river of light between the stars. Ships had to travel slowly here because the hyperspace currents were dangerous. One mistake could tear a vessel apart. The Korvathi Pride entered the corridor at exactly the time June had predicted. It was a beautiful ship, long and elegant, covered in silver armor and powerful weapons. 230 crew members served aboard. Commander Velix slept in the finest quarters, dreaming peaceful dreams. The Mujin waited in the darkness, engines silent, systems powered down. To the sensors of the Pride, it looked like a piece of space debris. Nothing important. Nothing dangerous. Taiho watched the warship through the window. His wounds from the outpost raid had been treated, but they still hurt. He did not care. Pain was just a signal. It could be ignored. "They are in position," June said from his console. "The stealth shuttle can launch in 60 seconds. Taiho nodded. He turned to face his crew. Sue stood ready, a medical kit on her belt and weapons on her back. Mira checked her rifle one more time, her face calm and empty. Day sat in the pilot's seat, ready to support them from the Mujin. "June, you stay here with Day," Taiho said. "Keep the ship ready. If we do not return in 1 hour, leave without us." June shook his head. "We will wait. That is an order. I heard you. I will not follow it." Taiho did not argue. There was no time. And truthfully, he did not want his friend to leave. He wanted to know that someone would finish the mission if he failed. The 3 of them boarded the stealth shuttle. It was small and fast, painted black to blend with the darkness of space. Day had modified its engines to run almost silent. June had loaded it with the security codes that would open the Pride's docking bay. "Good hunting," Day said over the radio. The shuttle launched into the void. It took 12 minutes to reach the Korvathi Pride. The warship's sensors scanned the area constantly, but the shuttle was invisible to them. The codes worked perfectly. The docking bay doors opened. The shuttle slipped inside like a knife entering flesh. 3 humans stepped onto the deck of an enemy warship. 230 aliens surrounded them. The odds were impossible, but odds meant nothing to Deathworlders. They moved fast and quiet, staying in the shadows. The Korvathi crew did not expect an attack. They were in council space, protected by treaties and laws. Who would dare to attack them? The first guards died without a sound. Mira's rifle coughed twice, and 2 bodies fell. Sue snapped a neck with her bare hands. Tai-Ho used a blade, saving his bullets for when they would be needed. They climbed through maintenance tunnels and crawled through air vents. They avoided the main corridors where the crew walked freely. June guided them through the ship using blueprints he had stolen from the outpost. Commander Velix is in her quarters, June said through their earpieces. Deck 7, Section 4. 2 guards outside her door. Understood, Tai-Ho replied. They reached Deck 7 in 20 minutes. By then, the ship knew something was wrong. Bodies had been discovered. Alarms began to sound. The crew scrambled to battle stations, but it was too late. The 2 guards outside Velix's quarters died quickly. Sue shot one. Mira shot the other. Tai-Ho kicked open the door and stepped inside. Commander Velix stood in the center of her room. She was tall and pale, just as she had been on the station where she had beaten a child half to death. She wore a sleeping robe, and her eyes were wide with shock. "Who are you?" she demanded. "How did you get on my ship?" Tai-Ho walked toward her slowly. He held no weapon in his hands. He did not need one. 3 months ago, he said, his voice soft and cold, you attacked a little girl on Verathnine. You broke her arm. You cracked her skull. You left her bleeding on the floor. Velix's eyes narrowed. The human child? You came here because of that? She was my daughter. For the first time, fear flickered across Velix's face. She reached for a weapon hidden under her pillow. It was a small pistol, powerful enough to kill at close range. She aimed it at Tai-Ho and fired. The first shot hit him in the chest. He stumbled, but did not fall. The second shot hit his shoulder. He kept walking. Velix screamed and fired again. The third shot missed. Her hand was shaking too much. Tai-Ho reached her and took the gun from her hand. He threw it aside. "What are you?" Velix whispered. "Why will you not die?" Tai-Ho pulled out a photograph from his pocket. It was wrinkled and stained with blood, but the image was still clear. A little girl with bright eyes and a happy smile. Before the attack? Before her life was stolen from her. Her name is Hannah, Tai-Ho said. She cannot hear from one ear anymore. She cannot speak anymore. She wakes up screaming from nightmares every night. He held the photograph in front of Velix's face. "Look at her. Look at what you destroyed." Velix looked at the image. Her lips trembled. "It was an accident. She spilled my drink. She insulted me. I lost my temper. She was a child. She was a primitive. A creature from a death world. Your species is barely civilized. You should be grateful that the council allows you to exist." Tai-Ho put the photograph back in his pocket. He looked at Velix with empty eyes. "My daughter begged you to stop," she cried. She screamed, but you did not stop. Velix fell to her knees. Suddenly, her arrogance was gone. Suddenly, she understood that she was going to die. "Please," she begged. "I have diplomatic immunity. The council will punish you. The Empire will hunt you. Please, I will give you anything." Tai-Ho looked down at her. "My daughter begged to." Sue and Mira stood at the door, keeping watch. Outside, the sounds of running feet and shouting voices grew louder. The ship's crew was coming. "We need to go," Sue said. "Now," Tai-Ho nodded. He did what needed to be done. It was not quick, but it was just. When it was over, he carried the evidence of his justice in a sealed container. The 3 humans fought their way back to the shuttle. The Korvathi crew tried to stop them, but they were not prepared for what they faced. Humans did not fight like other species. They used everything as a weapon. They ignored wounds that should have stopped them. They moved as a unit, covering each other, protecting each other. By the time they reached the shuttle, they were all bleeding. Sue had been shot twice. Mira had a deep cut across her face. Tai-Ho could barely stand, but they were alive, and they had what they came for. The shuttle launched from the Pride and flew into the darkness. Behind them, the warship burned. Fires had broken out during the fighting. The crew scrambled to save their vessel. The Mugen was waiting for them. Day pulled them aboard and jumped to hyperspace before the Pride's weapons could lock on, in the medical bay. Sue treated everyone's wounds, while June plotted a course to their final destination. Taiho sat alone in his cabin. The sealed container sat on the table in front of him. Inside was the proof of what he had done, the message he would send to the galaxy. He closed his eyes and saw Hannah's face. Not the broken girl from the hospital. The happy girl from before. Almost done, he whispered. One more step. Then I will come home. The Mugen flew through hyperspace toward the Grand Summit, toward the Galactic Council, toward the final act of justice. The Eternal Accord was the largest ship in the galaxy. It was not a warship. It was a symbol. A floating palace where the Galactic Council held its most important meetings. Over 1,000 delegates from hundreds of worlds gathered there for the Grand Summit. High Arbiter Nolam stood at the center of the Great Hall. He was old and wise, with silver skin and 6 eyes that could see in every direction at once. He had led the council for 200 years. He believed in order. He believed in law. He believed that the galaxy was a place of peace. He was about to learn how wrong he was. The Grand Summit is now in session, Nolam announced. His voice echoed through the massive chamber. Let us discuss the matters of trade, territory, and peace that bring us together.
Ow.
The delegates murmured in agreement. Ambassadors from the great empires sat in the front rows. Representatives from smaller worlds filled the seats behind them. Everyone wore their finest clothes. Everyone smiled politely. Then the alarms began to sound. A security officer rushed to Nolam's side. High Arbiter, an unknown shuttle is approaching the ship. It is not responding to our signals. It refuses to change course. Destroy it, Nolam said calmly. We cannot. It is too close. If we fire, the debris could damage the Eternal Accord. Before Nolam could respond, every screen in the Great Hall flickered. Every speaker crackled with static. Then a human voice filled the chamber. Attention, Galactic Council. We are the crew of the freighter, Mugen. We are human. Deathworlders. The delegates gasped. Some laughed nervously. Humans were known throughout the galaxy, but they were not taken seriously. They were newcomers. Primitives, barely worth noticing. The voice continued. You call us savages, animals. You say we are beneath your laws. 3 months ago, one of your officers attacked a human child. She broke the child's arm. She cracked her skull. She left her bleeding on the floor. The laughter stopped. The chamber fell silent. When the child's father asked for justice, your council refused. You said the officer had diplomatic immunity? You said there was nothing you could do. You transferred her to a warship and gave her a promotion. Al-Lem's 6 eyes widened. He remembered the incident. It had been a minor matter, handled quickly and quietly. No one had expected consequences. That officer was Commander Velix of the Korvathi Empire. She believed she was safe. She believed your laws would protect her. Outside the great windows of the Eternal Accord, the human shuttle came into view. It was small and battered, covered in scorch marks from the battle on the Korvathi Pride. Its cargo bay began to open. Your laws do not apply to us. Your ranks do not impress us. Your fleets do not frighten us. A sealed container floated out of the shuttle's cargo bay. It drifted slowly toward the Eternal Accord, spinning gently in the void. Every delegate watched it approach. We are Deathworlders. We come from a planet that tried to kill us for millions of years. We survived. We conquered. We spread to the stars. The container bumped against the great windows and stopped. Through the transparent walls of the container, the delegates could see what was inside. Commander Velix's head, preserved and frozen, her eyes still wide with terror. Screams filled the great hall. Delegates ran for the exits. Security officers drew their weapons, searching for a target that was not there. The voice spoke again. This is not a warning. It is a promise. Hurt one of our children again, and we will return. Not with one head. With 1,000, High Arbiter. Nolam stared at the container. His silver skin had turned pale. His 6 eyes could not look away from the face of the dead officer. You cannot hide from us. You cannot run from us. Your stations are not safe. Your ships are not safe. Your worlds are not safe. We will find you. We will reach you. We will make you pay. A new voice came through the speakers, deeper, colder. The voice of a father who had held his broken daughter in his arms. My name is Kong Tai-ho. My daughter's name is Hannah. She is 8 years old. She loved to run and play and laugh. Your Commander Velix took that from her. Tai-ho's voice echoed through the chamber like thunder. So I took something from you? The shuttle began to turn away from the eternal accord. Its engines glowed bright. Remember this day? Remember what we are capable of. Remember that your immunity means nothing to us. Remember that your laws cannot protect you from our justice. The shuttle jumped into hyperspace and disappeared. The Great Hall fell into chaos. Over the following days, the galaxy changed. The Galactic Council issued official condemnation of the human attack. Some species called for war against the Deathworlders. Others counseled caution. The Korvathi Empire demanded blood. But quietly, behind closed doors, new orders were given. New policies were written. Violence against human civilians, especially children, was to be avoided at all costs. Diplomatic immunity would no longer protect those who harmed the primitives from Earth. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Humans were not civilized by council standards. They did not follow the rules. They did not respect ranks or treaties or laws. They protected their own with a ferocity that the older species could not understand. They were animals from a death world, and they had reminded the stars what that meant. 3 weeks after the Grand Summit, small transport landed on the colony of New Busan. The sky was blue and clear. The grass swayed in a gentle wind. Birds sang in the trees. Hannah sat on a hill watching the clouds. Her hearing aid beeped softly in her ear. It helped, but she would never hear perfectly again. The doctor said the damage was permanent. She saw the transport land. She saw a figure step out and begin walking toward her. At first, she did not recognize him. He was thinner than before. He walked with a limp. Bandages covered his chest and shoulder. Then she knew. She stood up and ran. Her feet pounded against the grass. Her heart raced with joy. Apa. Her voice was small and rough. She had barely spoken since the attack. But she spoke now. Apa! Tai-ho fell to his knees and caught her in his arms. He held her tight, feeling her small body against his. Tears rolled down his face. I came back, he whispered. I told you I would come back. Anna pressed her face against his chest. She could hear his heartbeat, strong and steady, safe. You kept your promise, she said quietly. Tai-ho pulled back and looked at his daughter. She was still hurt. She was still healing. The road ahead would be long and hard, but she was alive. She was speaking, and she would never be hurt again. Behind them, Sue and Mira and Day and June climbed out of the transport. They were all bandaged and scarred. They had lost much in this fight, but they had gained something too. They had taught the galaxy to fear them. They had shown the stars that humans were not prey. They were predators. They were protectors. They were Deathworlders, and they would never forget. Tai-ho picked up his daughter and carried her toward the house where his sister waited. The sun shone warm on his face. The wind smelled like flowers and fresh grass. For the first time in months, he smiled. The galaxy watched from above. It would remember this day for 1,000 years. It would tell stories about the humans who had boarded a warship and taken ahead. It would warn its children never to anger the Deathworlders. And somewhere, in the cold silence of space, the stars continued to burn. They had seen 1 trillion years of history. They had watched empires rise and fall. They did not care about justice or revenge, but the humans did. And the humans had one. On Earth, they had a saying that was older than history. Older than civilization, older than memory. Do not go gentle into that good night. The galaxy had learned its meaning.